There are truths that set you free, and there are truths that destroy those who speak them. The mistake many people make is not being truthful. It's being truthful in the wrong place. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. The world doesn't want sincerity, it wants narrative. Politics guided by reality, not ideals, has always been the field where those who know how to remain silent survive. And while fools cry out for authenticity, strategists build empires in silence. The end justifies the means, and the means today is prudence. People don't respect those who say everything they think. They respect those who know what not to say. We live in an era where everyone exposes their emotions, opinions, and plans, expecting respect. But the more they reveal, the less power they have. The appearance of virtue, mystery, and control of speech have become rare weapons. Machiavelli would say, it is better to be feared than loved, not out of cruelty, but out of wisdom. Love is volatile, respect is lasting, and while the naive seek approval, the intelligent build authority through silence. Every word is a valuable coin. The more you speak, the more you devalue your presence. This video isn't about hiding, but about understanding what to expose. You'll discover why certain behaviors in public sabotage your image, weaken your influence, and reveal weaknesses that should remain invisible. You'll understand what Machiavelli called the calculated use of force, and how that force can be emotional, verbal, or symbolic. Because true power doesn't shout, doesn't explain, and doesn't defend itself. It simply observes, calculates, and acts when everyone thinks it's asleep. And that's why, from now on, you'll never look at what you reveal in public the same way again. If something inside you awakened while listening, don't ignore that feeling. This channel isn't about videos, it's about memories. Remember who you were before the fear, before the exhaustion, before the silence. Each new video here is a different reflection of your own soul. An invitation to understand what the world never taught you. The power you seek outside has always been within you. If you feel that this journey speaks to what lives silently within you, sign up now. Not to follow yet another creator, but to reconnect with something the world tried to make you forget. Because here, every word was made to heal, each reflection to awaken, and each video serves as a reminder. You are not alone on the path back to yourself. Click on subscribe and turn the algorithm into a daily reminder of who you really are. People like to believe that the world is fair, that merit speaks louder, and that it's enough to be true. Machiavelli would smile at that. In politics guided by reality, not ideals, what defines a man's destiny is not what he is, but what others believe him to be. The appearance of virtue weighs more than virtue itself, and every public mistake can erode years of silent authority. A simple misinterpreted gesture can transform a respected leader into a target of ridicule. The end justifies the means, and the means in this case is perception. Knowing how to behave in public is not futility, it's strategic self-defense. Every look, every word, and even silence communicates something about who you are. And if you don't control it, someone else will. The mistake many make is acting in public as if they were at home, forgetting that the social arena is a subtle battlefield. Machiavelli would say that only those who master their own presence can maintain their own loyal armies. That is, respect and trust. Constant adaptability is the modern virtue. Adjusting without losing essence, molding oneself without becoming corrupted. When a man enters a room and conveys self-control, poise and sobriety, he awakens something ancestral, trust. It's the same principle that allowed kings and generals to dominate rooms without needing to raise their voices. He who masters himself masters the environment. And he who masters the environment rarely needs to explain his power. Ultimately, it's a matter of conscience. Those who understand true human nature realize that we are all being observed all the time. colleagues, bosses, friends. Everyone forms opinions based on what you exude. Therefore, public behavior is the art of aligning who you are with who you appear to be. A thoughtless word can destroy a reputation. A well-calculated silence can elevate your authority. Learning to balance emotions, presence, and expression is the first step towards silent power. But there's an even deeper principle that Machiavelli taught. In every human relationship, perception surpasses reality. And that's what we'll discuss next. Niccolò Machiavelli understood something few realize. The world is not governed by truths, but by perceptions. No matter how noble your intentions, it doesn't matter if the public doesn't see them. Politics guided by reality, not ideals, demands that a person understand how the collective mind interprets their gestures, clothing, voice, and silence. That's why he said it's better to be feared than loved. Not because he despised love, but because he knew that respect sustained by fear is more predictable than affection sustained by fickleness. Perception is the invisible framework that defines the value of each action. A public mistake can be reinterpreted as strength if well handled. A good deed poorly presented can seem like weakness. And in this subtle game, the calculated use of force is what separates amateurs from strategists. Consider, for example, how modern leaders, CEOs, and even influencers construct their images. None of them show everything. There is always a control of the narrative, a symbolic distance. Machiavelli would call this the appearance of virtue, a carefully maintained facade, not to deceive, but to protect. The wise person chooses what to reveal and what to conceal, knowing that mystery is more powerful than absolute transparency. When the public cannot fully decipher someone, they project grandeur. This is how kings and politicians have survived centuries of judgment, manipulating perceptions, guiding gazes. It's not about falsehood, it's self-defense in a world where raw sincerity can be used as a weapon against you. To apply this to daily life, you need to observe yourself in each social context. In a work meeting, avoid being the first to speak. Observe before acting. In the digital environment, think before publishing. A post that soothes your ego for a moment can erode the authority built over months. Adopt constant adaptability. Speak less, listen more, and let the mystery work for you. Learn to become the kind of person others can't easily label. It is at this point that power begins to flourish. After all, when you understand that perception surpasses reality, you also realize that showing too much opens up loopholes. And that will be exactly the first mistake many make in public. One of the greatest mistakes a man can make is believing that absolute sincerity is synonymous with strength. Machiavelli warned, human nature is guided by interests, not by purity. Showing excessive emotions, especially in public, is like opening the gates of a fortress and inviting strangers inside. Whoever reveals what hurts them, what they fear, what they desire, gives ammunition to those who can use all of that against them. In politics, guided by reality, not by ideals, uncontrolled emotion is seen as weakness. And the curious thing is that the more a person tries to appear authentic, the more predictable they become. The end justifies the means, and the means in this case is emotional control. Silent power doesn't shout, doesn't defend itself, doesn't explain. It only observes, analyzes, and reacts when necessary. Think about how many times you've witnessed someone lose respect over a simple, poorly worded outburst. At work, online, or among friends, the world rarely offers genuine compassion. It offers disguised curiosity. Public vulnerability is appealing in theory, but dangerous in practice. Machiavelli would say that a prudent man knows when to cry, and above all where. The king's tears should fall only in his chamber, not on his throne. The calculated use of force also applies to emotions. Demonstrating them is power, but only if it's intentional. A leader can move an audience if he chooses to, but he should never be swept away by his own emotions. It's the difference between mastering fire and being consumed by it. Applying this doesn't mean becoming cold or indifferent. It means understanding that there's a time and place for every emotion. If something irritates you, practice silence. If something saddens you, learn to process it in private. Write, meditate, or talk to someone you trust out of the spotlight. Modern virtue is knowing how to balance emotion and strategy. Great leaders, from ancient emperors to contemporary CEOs, master the art of restraint. They know that the public doesn't respect those who lose control. And when you learn to contain the impulse to react, something changes in the perception of others. You become seen as solid, reliable, almost unshakable. But soon, another invisible enemy emerges, the need to be approved. And that's where many fall without realizing it. Few things weaken a man's image as much as the constant need for approval. Machiavelli would say that the ruler who seeks to please everyone ends up being despised by everyone. Politics guided by reality, not ideals, shows that approval is volatile. The public loves today what it crucifies tomorrow. The end justifies the means, and among those means is detachment from the opinions of others. Whoever lives trying to prove their worth naturally loses the power to inspire respect. Virtue, in this context, is the inner strength to remain centered even when the world demands explanations. Weakness is not stumbling, it is begging for acceptance. And in the public arena, the need to be accepted is interpreted as submission, the opposite of the magnetism that authority emanates. Observe how authentic leaders behave. They rarely seek validation, even when criticized. They prefer the discomfort of silence to the rush to justify themselves. This is a calculated use of emotional force. Weakness, on the other hand, reveals itself in small things, in forced laughter to please, in excessive praise, in the fear of displeasing. It is the type of behavior that Machiavelli would associate with the loss of virtue, when a man ceases to act out of conviction and begins to react out of fear of rejection. The appearance of virtue should be maintained, yes, but never at the cost of dignity. To be respected is better than to be loved. To be feared is better than to be ignored. Weakness, even disguised as gentleness, is perceived by the trained eye as an invitation to manipulation. In practice, the antidote to this mistake is simple, but it requires courage. Learn to endure the discomfort of no. Say no when necessary, even if it hurts. Look people in the eye and remain silent when someone tries to measure your worth. Work on constant adaptability, not to mold yourself to others' desires, but to maintain your own balance in any environment. Make approval a bonus, not a necessity. When you free yourself from the addiction to being accepted, something powerful happens. People begin to respect you instinctively. Machiavelli would call this the beginning of true authority. And it is precisely when someone becomes more solid that another fatal mistake arises, that of talking too much, revealing plans, and losing the power of mystery. Speaking is easy. Speaking strategically is rare. Machiavelli said that a prudent man never reveals the full extent of his thoughts, for mystery is a leader's most powerful shield. Politics, guided by reality, not ideals, teaches that a poorly calculated word can cost more than well-used silence. The end justifies the means, and often the means is simply silence. When someone exposes their plans too much, they lose the advantage of surprise, surrender their weapons, and become predictable. That's why the most intelligent strategists leave false clues, create smokescreens, and allow others to underestimate their intentions. Whoever masters the game of silence masters time, and whoever masters time shapes destiny. How many opportunities have been lost simply because of excessive talking? People who revealed ideas prematurely, who shared secrets with those who didn't deserve them, who showed vulnerabilities disguised as sincerity. Machiavelli would call this a fatal error, giving power to the enemy without realizing it. The calculated use of verbal force is a forgotten art. In a world where everyone has an opinion, silence has become an act of resistance. The man who speaks little and observes much is inevitably respected. He doesn't need to assert his intelligence. It's felt in the air. It's the appearance of virtue in action, appearing calm, neutral, almost distant, while analyzing every movement. Virtue here is absolute self-control. Knowing when to be silent is more important than knowing what to say. In practice, this principle applies to everything: business, relationships, social media. Avoid announcing your plans before consolidating them. Don't tell what you're doing, show the results. Keep your goals for those who share the same vision and silence. Before responding, breathe. Before giving your opinion, consider whether silence wouldn't be more strategic. Machiavelli stated that great men win not through brute force, but through cold patience. The modern world rewards those who speak quickly, but respects those who speak correctly. And when you learn to master this internal timing, you begin to radiate a presence that doesn't depend on noise. But that's exactly where the next danger arises, becoming overly available and losing the power that silence grants. Machiavelli said that abundance diminishes the value of things, and this also applies to people. When someone becomes excessively available, their symbolic value falls, not because they become less capable, but because scarcity is what maintains desire and respect. In politics guided by reality, not ideals, the man who offers himself too much loses the mystery that sustains authority. The appearance of virtue must be maintained with elegance, but always surrounded by a calculated distance. The end justifies the means. If the goal is to be respected, the means is restraint. Power is expressed as much by what one does as by what one does not do. The calculated use of force here is the calculated use of presence. Knowing when to disappear is as strategic as knowing when to appear. Observe how truly influential leaders behave. They are rarely available at any given moment. They control access, time, and even their gaze. Modern virtue consists of managing one's energy and attention as a scarce resource. Being present everywhere is synonymous with dispersion, not power. Even on social media, those who post every hour, comment on everything, and react to everyone lose their aura of authority. Machiavelli would understand this perfectly. He would know that excessive exposure destroys symbolic power. The same applies to relationships. Those who are always accessible cease to be perceived as a choice and become seen as a guarantee. And what is guaranteed is never valued. Distance, therefore, is not coldness. It is strategy. Applying this principle requires discipline and awareness. Say no elegantly. Delaying a response, declining an invitation, or limiting access are modern ways to preserve one's own royalty. Build a routine where not everyone knows where you are, what you're thinking, or what you'll do next. Constant adaptability includes mastering absence, being present when convenient and invisible when necessary. This creates tension, curiosity, and respect. Power doesn't reside in excessive movement, but in pause. Scarcity generates value, silence creates expectation, and distance commands reverence. But even strategists who master the power of absence still stumble on another mistake, losing control when provoked. And that's when the public discovers what really lies behind the mask. True power is not measured by the strength of reactions, but by the ability to remain unmoved in the face of chaos. Machiavelli said that a prudent prince should act like the fox and the lion, shrewd enough to perceive traps and strong enough not to react to every provocation. In politics guided by reality, not ideals, reacting impulsively to criticism is surrendering command to the enemy. When someone offends you and you react with anger, you prove that the other person has power over your emotional state. The end justifies the means, and the means in this case is absolute self-control. The man who masters his emotions in public does not need to justify himself. His silence is more humiliating than any response. The calculated use of force is often the calculated use of silence. Observe the great strategists, from ancient kings to contemporary leaders. They don't respond to every attack, and when they do, it's with surgical precision. This skill comes from virtue, the inner strength that allows one to transform insults into opportunities. When an adversary tries to provoke them in public, the wise person analyzes the situation. They know that every audience is also a court, and whoever reacts impulsively becomes the defendant. A simple, poorly controlled facial expression can destroy the appearance of virtue built over years. Machiavelli would say that controlled fear is a tool, but uncontrolled fury is a sentence. Those who understand true human nature know that the public doesn't respect those who lose their composure. They admire those who maintain it, even when the world tries to break them. In practice, this means training calmness as a weapon. When criticized, breathe before speaking. If someone attacks you in public, smile slightly, the kind of smile that says, "You don't affect me." Never react impulsively, react calculatedly. Transform anger into observation. Whoever tries to irritate you is revealing where they feel fear. Constant adaptability also resides here, being malleable without losing your center. The more others try to throw you off balance, the more solid you must remain. This magnetic solidity confuses, intrigues, and intimidates, and that is precisely why silent power is so feared. It doesn't need to prove anything. But there is another danger, more subtle and equally corrosive, the one that arises from the need to appear intelligent all the time, to show knowledge and impress. In a world dominated by intellectual vanity, silent wisdom has become a form of rebellion. Machiavelli would say that the man who constantly needs to prove his intelligence has already lost it. Politics, guided by reality, not by ideals, teaches that true power is not displayed, it imposes itself naturally. The end justifies the means, and the means in this case is the mastery of the ego. The need to impress is fortune's favorite trap. The more you talk to be admired, the more you reveal how much you depend on admiration. Great strategists cultivate mystery, for they know that apparent ignorance confuses fools and protects the wise. Virtue is not about demonstrating superiority, but about making others feel that there is something in you that they cannot fully comprehend. Think about the times when someone monopolized a conversation just to assert themselves. At first, it may seem convincing. After a few minutes, it reveals a lack of substance. Machiavelli would call this an error of perception, trading authority for vanity. The calculated use of verbal force requires economy. The wise person speaks little, but what they say carries weight. This economy creates tension and expectation. It's the same technique used by generals and diplomats, leaving gaps, provoking curiosity, staying one step ahead. The appearance of virtue also resides in silence. Those who master their brilliance don't need to flaunt it to the world. And in the public arena, the one who speaks less is remembered more. Excessive words dilute impact. Silence multiplies it. In practice, this principle can be applied immediately. In meetings, resist the urge to prove you know. Ask intelligent questions and observe the effect. In the digital environment, prefer short, enigmatic phrases that leave room for interpretation. They attract more respect than long explanations. Use constant adaptability to balance presence and mystery. Speak enough to be understood, but never enough to be deciphered. The more predictable you become, the less dangerous you seem, and in the game of power, appearing harmless means losing the advantage. But there is one last mistake, as subtle as it is devastating, that often nullifies all hard-won authority: the habit of apologizing too much, explaining the inexplicable, and justifying what doesn't need justifying. Machiavelli said that the strong err in silence, while the weak justify themselves loudly. Politics guided by reality, not ideals, shows that those who apologize too much end up asking permission to exist. The end justifies the means, and the means in this case is to preserve an image of firmness even when the failure is evident. Apologizing once is noble, twice is submission. Repetition transforms repentance into weakness. The public does not judge the error, but the posture in the face of it. The appearance of virtue must be maintained with composure, a firm gaze, restrained speech, a brief and direct acknowledgement. Those who try to justify themselves too much lose their aura of authority and give space for others to dictate the meaning of their own error. And in the game of power, those who explain too much end up diminishing their own value. Observe how leaders and strategists handle mistakes. They take responsibility, but they don't drown in it. A simple, "It was a mistake, and it's already been corrected," is more powerful than 10 minutes of emotional explanations. Machiavelli would call this the calculated use of verbal force, saying the minimum necessary to end the matter. The same principle applies to personal relationships. Those who feel the need to explain themselves all the time are trying to buy forgiveness with words. And forgiveness that is bought is never genuine. Virtue consists of maintaining one's position even when the world demands one's knees. It is the balance between humility and firmness. Being loved may be pleasant, but it is better to be respected. Respect is born from control, and control is born from sobriety. In practice, exercise the power of closure. When you feel the urge to justify yourself, ask yourself, will this change perception or just soothe my ego? If the answer is the latter, remain silent. Constant adaptability includes the wisdom to choose when not to react. Silence, in this context, is a form of command. Learn to endure the discomfort of not being understood. It's the price of true authority. Machiavelli would understand. Power lies not in convincing, but in remaining. And when a man learns to restrain himself even under pressure, he has already mastered the first stage of silent power. But understanding these mistakes is only the beginning. True transformation begins when you learn to apply all of this consciously, shaping the image the world sees, and that's exactly what we'll talk about now. Everything Machiavelli wrote more than 500 years ago remains alive in every human gesture, because the nature of people hasn't changed, only the arenas. Politics guided by reality, not by ideals, is the antidote to the social romanticism that weakens so many men. The end justifies the means, and in this context, the means is self-control. Silent power is born not from arrogance, but from conscience. Every measured word, every restrained glance, and every deliberate silence builds the invisible architecture of authority. Virtue is that inner strength that allows one to adjust to circumstances without losing one's center. And fortune, luck, always favors those who know how to wait. The secret, therefore, is simple. Master yourself before attempting to master any scenario. Practical application begins with the small things. Observe your posture in public, how you enter a room, how you greet people, how you listen. Every detail communicates something about your symbolic hierarchy. Reduce the frequency of your opinions and increase the weight of your actions. Use silence as a tool of power. It creates expectation and amplifies your presence. In conversations, avoid over-explaining yourself. Resist the impulse to correct what others think about you. Remember, Those who understand true human nature know that it's impossible to control others' perceptions, but it is possible to guide their gaze. And that is the essence of command. Power is not a performance, it is a field of energy cultivated through discipline and the absence of haste. Constant adaptability is the cement that holds together this inner empire. Change your tone without changing your essence. Be flexible in speech and unwavering in presence. Use calculation without losing your soul. The appearance of virtue should be your shield, true inner mastery, your sword. The more you master the art of appearing calm, the more dangerous you become. Machiavelli didn't teach deceit, he taught strategy. And when you understand that visible power is merely a reflection of the invisible, you begin to see the game in its entirety. From here on, everything said ceases to be theory and becomes practice. And true practice begins when you discover the truths that should never be revealed in public. Ultimately, true power lies not in being the most talkative, the most charismatic, or the most beloved. It lies in being the most conscious. Machiavelli called this virtù, the ability to act firmly when everyone else falters. Politics, guided by reality, not ideals, teaches that those who master their own presence need not master anyone else. The end justifies the means, and the means in this case is self-control. Every time you choose silence instead of reaction, you strengthen yourself. Every time you observe before responding, you elevate yourself. And every time you refrain from justifying yourself, you earn a respect that 1,000 words could not buy. Now look at yourself. How many times have you relinquished power by talking too much? How many times have you sought approval when remaining silent would have sufficed? Perhaps this is the moment to turn the tables, to understand that mystery is not coldness, it's strategy, that silence is not absence, it's presence, and that the appearance of virtue is often the shield that protects man from a society that feeds on weaknesses. Machiavelli knew, he who shows everything loses the throne before the battle begins. And he who masters what he reveals governs even in chaos. So ask yourself, from today onward, what are you still revealing that you should keep to yourself? How many secrets of your strength are you giving away for free? Silent power begins when you understand that control of words is control of destiny. If you want to continue learning about psychological power, Machiavelli, and the art of dominating without appearing to dominate, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. The next video will show you how to transform presence into influence and silence into real power.